Okay, so welcome to the 2020 Toyota Sienna van build out, done in summer 2021, but it's a 2020 model year Sienna. My father and my mother purchased this as a new vehicle, and my father and I have both been looking at these YouTube videos like Ray Parks and lots of others who have modified both these and cube vans and sprinters and all sorts of vans to make some really amazing camper van, kind of van life sort of builds. And you know, it's kind of trendy at this point, so it feels a little bit cliche, but you know, it's such an awesome thing, and it's so functional and cool. I really can't, even though it's popular, I can't actually say it's cliche, because it's really awesome. It's great to use. So here you can see the bed platform and the sink in the background there, and the solar panel on the right, and those window covers from WeatherTech on the left. So here you see the sink. It's a marine hand pump sink, and a cabinet on the right with gray water. You see the fresh potable water there in the center, and then the power stack on the left. We'll get to that actually in a couple of photos, and then there's an actual video where my dad and I go through this, so I'm just going to do some commentary here on these photos. There's the door open, the gray water, some cleaning supplies down there, and that power stack with two LED lights. So the rocker panels on the top, the DC power switch, USB. There's the Renogy smart battery monitor, which shows you the total, the percent charge, state of charge of the batteries, directly plugged in the batteries. Great. There's the AC inverter, 1000 watt AC inverter power switch, and then below AC power from the inverter, and then below that actually from shore power when we plug into the Genius power charging system. So my dad did all this carpentry. This is his project. He's a wizard with this stuff, with carpentry. He's got all the tools, but I helped out plan out the power and pick the power stuff and figure that out. So here's the 175 watt Renogy flexible solar panel. It's on like fiberglass. Actually, my dad was saying the edges were kind of sharp when it arrived, so he very gently sanded them down. I don't know if that'll affect the coating and the ceiling, but it seems pretty good. But it fits perfectly in that little tiny groove there, where only that thin, it's very thin, would fit. So there's a very good Dometic fridge freezer combo. It can be both freezer, both fridge, one freezer. Awesome, lots of storage space around it. On the right, the Genius charger that can plug in for shore power to charge the batteries and use those AC ports. The Renogy 50 amp DC-DC MPPT solar charge controller, plus charges from the alternator, and will actually top up your truck batteries from the solar when you're parked. It's amazing. And on the left, just a DC fuse bus for all the DC stuff, and the power stack. So here it is with a 4-inch memory foam trifold mattress. Really comfortable. I'm like 200 pounds, 6'1", and I was very comfortable. My dad, a little taller, a little heavier. My mom both thought it was really comfortable. They thought it was great. 2 USB lights, and they have like a soft red, a really soft light red, which is great, even good as a night light. And then some very bright settings, 3 settings, very good. Tiny power usage, and we have these little USB fans too. The fans are only like 1 watt on medium, 1 watt power draw. These little USB DC fans we can plug into this thing, run them all night, barely takes any power, 1 watt. And we got 2,400 watt hours of power. So video is about to start here, but the tour. But that's kind of the Cliff's Notes, the summary, and I got some photos in the end to show. I'll do a bit more commentary for the power system. All right, so here's the 2020 Toyota Sienna van build conversion that my father masterminded here. Hello, Steve.
Hello, everyone.
So this is a 2020 Toyota Sienna, and as you can see, there's a bed platform built back in here. So the back latch is propped up right now to show the Dometic fridge freezer and some of the power components, and you can see there's a 175 watt flexible Renogy solar panel there. And well, I guess, do we want to start back here, or do we want to circulate around the whole van, or what do you think?
Well, we can just start here to show people how we situated a lot of the electronics in the back so it's easily accessible from the back. And we got 2 master on-off switches. This is a master for the batteries, and this is a master for the solar panel. This is a 26 amp Genius battery charger, Renogy DC-DC MPPT, which works really well. So, and we have a communications hub, renogy communications hub.
And that goes to the Bluetooth transmitter, so you can plug in multiple components to look at the renogy app.
Now we use a lot of Blue Sea products too. So Blue Sea 12 volt DC distribution panel, and also Blue Sea plug-ins for the fridge.
So this is the DC for the fridge, and the one below, is that for shore power?
Yeah, that's for shore power coming in. And as you can see, if you look up here where shore power comes in, Toyota in their infinite wisdom left it that we can actually run it right through the window.
That's pretty neat.
Instead of having to bore holes in the truck, you can run the solar out one side and the shore power out the other side, and actually just seals down into the weather stripping.
So the weather stripping gives enough play that you can just seal it in, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll fire up the batteries with the master switch.
So that isolates the battery from everything, right?
Yeah. So right now the only thing, just the batteries are live up to this switch. We turn that on. This will fire up the renogy unit. And the big thing is with these units is that you can't have the solar power on unless that unit's on. So you get a sequence going where this is always the first thing on, and the solar charged panel over here is the last thing on or the first thing off. Right.
So that makes it so that the connection to the solar is broken. So
Yeah.
you don't, yeah.
That's a load break switch. So what we're going to do now is we'll just run around to the front of the truck and we'll show you how we ran. Actually, this cable here, this cable feeds right up to the front of the van.
So that's from this Renogy, it's a 50 amp DC charge controller with MPPT, but it also hooks into the truck battery, which is
truck alternator as well.
and the alternator, so that when the car turns on, well, I guess we'll show them. There's an ignition switch that triggers it to start charging, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
So that comes out actually through the firewall way back there. So there is a way you can run it through the firewall. There's a big Toyota wiring harness goes through, but there's enough room for you can fish another cable through there. You just have to drill a little hole in the rubber.
I don't know if I can get it here, see it.
Which is it's a little nerve-wracking drilling a hole right beside a giant Toyota wiring harness, but
yeah, right.
it seems to work pretty good. So here we have a 70 amp circuit breaker.
So here's the truck battery charged in the alternator. You're tapping into it here with a circuit breaker so that well, you stop any surges from going back, but also you can sever the connection if needed, right?
And right now it's isolated from the system because we've opened it up. So we're gonna close it. So now the 12 volt from the truck battery is going back to the DC to DC charger.
And so because you weren't going to use the van for a couple of weeks, just so the battery wasn't constantly charging and discharging, we weren't going through cycles of the battery life, because these lithium iron phosphate or whatever type of battery, they have a certain number of cycles they can have.
Right.
By turning this off, you stop from getting charged when you're driving, and by turning off the two master switches in the back, you're not getting any power going out of the battery. So you're not putting them to sleep, and Renogy does have a sleep mode, but that's just kind of isolating them. So
Just not cycling through. So.
and we were getting like what, 0.5% drain per day maybe just by sitting.
Yeah.
And if you go in standby mode, it would be less if you were leaving it for months, I guess, right?
We can show you the path that this cable took too. So it goes through the firewall into the front here.
You want to go this side here?
Just open up that door.
Okay.
So then underneath the dash, you take this panel off and you lift this panel up. They come off quite easily. And you run the cable through there. You fish the cable through the center pillar. And then you lift this panel up. So there's a big cable tray underneath there. And then there's this little opening here. You can get through to the back. And yeah, it's a lot easier than it looks. Just a little nerve-wracking tearing apart your brand new van.
Yeah, right.
Actually, while we're over here too, here's the back of the freshwater system. So there's 20 liters of fresh water, 10 liters of gray water. There's a marine pump that works just flawlessly. And you can also see, this is all thanks to Ray Parks, by the way, too, who I stole a lot of ideas off of on YouTube. So I want to thank him for all his ideas. We just modified a few of them, made them a bit different. But
Yeah, this is pretty slick. So
this is how Ray attaches to the van.
get out of the sun here.
And then the same down here. See those two bolts down there? That's where it's bolted to the control tower. Then the control tower is bolted to the main bed frame.
So those two bolts there connect it to this tower here, which with the LED light, which we haven't shown yet, but that has all the power and the kind of screens and the Bluetooth transmitter. But we'll show that from the other side.
Oh, and this is cool here. We'll show this whole thing when we go around, but the foldable ledge here, yeah, we'll show it inside there. But yeah, this is a.
Oh yeah, yeah. So the countertop. Yeah. So when you're sleeping, because the bed fits right in there. That's so you're not banging your feet on the countertop. Or if you want more counter space, you can just do that. We have 12-volt lights here. 3 white settings plus a red night light setting. And these even have USB ports.
Nice.
Which is cool.
And these rocker switches here are what turn that up, power that on and off, right?
Main panel there.
And what kind of plywood was this again?
Oh, that's Baltic birch marine grade plywood. This comes out of Russia, actually. So you get it at high-end wood stores that sell this kind of stuff.
Very cool. Yeah, it's one of the thin, flexible renogy panels, and it worked out great to slide in. I mean, you could get one of those foldable suitcase solar panels, but you know they're somewhat thick, so it wouldn't fit in the side like that. Like that's a pretty nice.
And this just happens to fit perfectly up on top of the Thule ski rack. So just lay this up top here. This very light. So if you're in a campsite, we've got 2 5-foot extensions, which again will come through this window and hook up, or we've got 2 40-foot extensions in case you want to move the solar panel in the sun if the truck's in the shade.
Right.
So either way, we're set. So.
Yeah, pretty slick. And we were testing this out recently, and in full sun we were getting between 120 to 100, I think we hit a peak 140 watts, 135 watts coming in. So, you know, with these panels you always draw a little less than they're rated for, even though it's rated for 175. But
so this is the one that goes to the master solar switch down there. And the other one just goes to the ground on the renogy DC to DC charger.
And these are kind of standard solar kind of waterproof connectors, right?
And they fit exactly through the window. Over here with so there again, they just hang them through the windows.
Yeah, so the same thing. So the weather stripping kind of makes a seal, but allows it to go through without putting too much pressure on the cable, right?
And then you just close this off. Just put that in a certain spot.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Toyota's made cable entries on both sides of the car, which saves boring holes in the back of your truck, right?
Yeah. Well, because we had got off Amazon those little waterproof connectors, but you got to drill holes through and
bore holes in your truck and stuff.
Not ideal. Because the nice thing about this, well, we can go into it once we fold this down and highlight the carpentry a bit more, but this thing is not permanently attached, but it's very secure, and so it really is not that hard to take in and out and convert back to a regular standard Sienna, right?
Yeah, you can kind of see where it's bolted down. There's 6 giant hose clamps, 2 at the back and 4 at the front.
So what are those connected to? To the hooks for the seats?
Yeah, when you take your Toyota seats out, there's these lovely big U brackets. Oh, the other thing too is for the ground for this unit. So you can see this is the ground cable going down.
Mm-hmm.
You just use some of the bolts that the rear seats use, and you get this perfect place to run the ground cable. Just there's one down there. See that one down there?
Where, that bolt right there?
Yeah. So there's about 4 of those across the back, so I just use one. I just poke the hole in the carpet, and you run the ground cable to that, and you can really tighten it on really well.
Oh, and this here, just while we're here, this is an extra DC cigarette port, which we're using for like a 30-foot waterproof LED light strip. So when camping, you can string it out, and it can also go through this window here if you wanted to give some nice different colored lighting and stuff like that for camping or whatever you're doing. And yeah, lots of storage space along the side here. So on this side over here is where the exhaust vent for the compressor for the fridge freezers, so you don't really want to block that up. But down here, it's so deep, there's a ton of storage space back here too. And these are the, what's the brand of these? The WeatherTech?
Yeah, WeatherTech window coverings.
Custom window coverings, so you can cover all the windows. That's pretty slick. Well, let me show the this from this side. So, well, I guess let's finish off with the hand pump sink. So really, we already saw this from the back, but this has a little magnet, so you press and it pops open, and you can kind of get at the water, some cleaning stuff from here. And then this is that power stack, so you can see there's The Bluetooth transmitter for Renogy's on the top. Here's that little rocker panel for 4 switches plus USB and a DC cigarette port. Here's the Renogy smart battery screen, which shows we've got these 2 Renogy lithium iron phosphate batteries in parallel, 200 amp hours or 2,400 watt hours total. And we got the solar panels on right now. We just plugged it in, the solar panel, so it's bringing in about 100 watts. But you can cycle through. We're at 88.9% state of charge. And because it's these smart batteries, the Ethernet cable plugs right into the battery, and so you get a lot of good information. You don't need a shunt. Here's the power switch for the 1,000 watt inverter. Here's the AC plugs for the 1,000 watt inverter, and these are separate AC plugs for going right into shore power, coming from that Genius charger. So this is coming from shore power. We could have done a 2,000 watt inverter, but we didn't really think we'd need the power, so we went with the 1,000 watt. Yeah, and then I guess let's see here. So we've got this piece here is fixed, but underneath you can see there's some storage space, and there's a little camping toilet that you can pull out. So if you are wanting to not really show off that you're in the van and you want to have a pee at nighttime, or just for, you know, whatever, scared of bears outside, whatever the reason, you can pee in that one. It's got a little flushable kind of system, I guess, and a holding tank in the bottom.
Yeah, and the other nice thing too is this is with 4 bolts on here and then 4 bolts on the sink cabinet or to the control cabinet. You take those 2 out and you can put the 2 captain's chairs back in. So convert it back to a 4-seater, and the control tower stays fastened to this main unit down here. So this is like the main unit, which is bolted down to the truck. This unit is just bolted to the main unit. Right? It's kind of like Lego, kind of all bolted together. So you can convert it back over for, you know, day-to-day use really easily too.
Yeah, which is awesome that you're not physically modifying the van too much, right? And so I guess, well, I mean, just to back up, this whole platform here is for a nice bed, which we'll show later. But this part here folds up, and you can see the rest of the power system. Okay, so we've got the 2 Renogy smart lithium iron phosphate batteries, and so they claim that they're good down to, I think, negative 20 Celsius up to plus 50.
And they're 100 amp hours each.
Yeah, they have a lot of smart electronics to prevent overcharging, to prevent over discharge, to prevent charging when it's too cold. One nice thing is that at least Renogy claims their operating range is down to, I think, negative 20 Celsius. Yeah, they say right there, operating temperature, negative 20 to plus 50 Celsius. Whereas regular lithium ion aren't supposed to be charged or discharged much below 0 Celsius, I believe. And these things you can discharge down to 0%. And they got a lot of smart electronics to stop them from being damaged from overcharging or undercharging. And you can see here, this was actually a little bit finicky, is that one of these Ethernet cables is going to that smart display in the electronic stack, and one of them is connecting one to the other and going one direction. So on this side going to the smart display, it wasn't working. We were getting errors. So we flipped them, and for some reason it's working. We're not totally sure, but it took a bit of fiddling, but it's been working great since then. And actually, did you want to point out this cable here and that black one back there?
Yeah, these 2 are for the Genius battery charger, which is located just back there. So they're hardwired in there permanently. But we've also left it disconnected, so you just plug that in to the other end, because the battery charger has a real small drain to it. So that way, and another thing is, with the solar power, we're probably really not going to use the shore power all that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everything's so energy efficient. Like that fridge is maybe using 20 to 30 watts an hour when as long as it's already cooled down. You know, cell phones, laptops, these LED lights, the power draw is so low. I was sitting on the beach bringing 130 watts of solar, and I was charging all my devices, running the fridge freezer, and still putting power into the batteries. So, you know, that's a good point. So, you know, these things are pretty slick, and the fact that it can charge from shore power, it charges from the alternator when the truck is running, or the solar, it's great. And with this much power, 200 amp hours is not an insane amount, but the fact that you can discharge to 0 if you need, We think that we could run with no input, no charging, just off the 200 amp hours of capacity. Probably could run that fridge freezer for at least 5 days. Probably the fridge freezer and lights and other things. So pretty cool. And okay, this here is the my dad's fancy carpentry routering work you can see here. But this is actually really handy because it's protecting. There's another one of those fuses like underneath the hood there. This is an 80 amp one. There's a, is this a 200 amp?
200 amp.
And then a bus bar here. And then is this just another bus bar?
That's all the negative ground.
It's the negative ground.
So all the positive leads we can cover just with a Ziploc container.
Yeah.
Just on the off chance something starts bouncing around.
But this thing worked out great actually, just because this is actually nice storage space here to put other stuff that you might not use quite as frequently, because we'll show afterwards with this folded down when the bed on top, you can still get under, but it's a little bit, no, it's not hard, but we can put stuff here that you don't need to get access to too frequently. So yeah, so this is, I guess, the summary of the power system here, the 1000-watt inverter. Again, we could put a 2000 or a 3000, but realistically, we didn't think we'd ever really use that. So here's a screenshot from the Renogy app. So this app ties in and connects to that Bluetooth transmitter at the very top of the wooden electronic stack. And it plugs into that communication hub we got, which allows you to plug in more devices, but technically only our charge controller, the DC 50 amp is compatible. The 1000 watt inverter does not have a plug. Actually, yeah, the 2000 does, but the 1000 does not. And the batteries we have plugged right into the battery control screen. And there is a weird glitch that I was reading where people could not, and we also couldn't get the battery to connect to the communication hub and then give information over the Bluetooth hub, although we didn't try very hard, so we might try again, but other people have also complained that was hard. But anyway, one thing you can see here with this screenshot is you can see the kind of average power coming in. It is a bit of a delay, but it updates pretty much real time in what the current power coming into the solar panel is. You can track over previous days how much power you brought in. It gives you an idea of the battery power, although that is getting it from the charge controller. There's no actual direct connection to the batteries. It's not interfacing with that smart battery display that plugs right in by Ethernet. It's not getting any information from that. So it's just from the voltage from the charge controller's feeling. So, you know, I don't know how accurate, but anyway, it's a decent app. The one glitch we have found is that every time we open the app, we have to go add device and re-add it, reconnect it to the van, to the Bluetooth transmitter. So every time we have to add that to make it pop back up. So it's a bit glitchy, but you know what? Overall, it works not bad. Just to show here, the solar cables are plugged in and they're hooked up, and we're bringing in a good 110 watts. Here's the mattress on top. So it's a 3-piece foldable memory foam mattress. It's a 4-inch one?
4-inch, yeah.
And that's from Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and underneath here, you can see there's lots of air spaces, and the same in the front. And so there's good airflow through there to keep the electronics from overheating.
And you can see now too that we've got solar plugged in. The red light means solar power is coming in. And the next one to go on after that is when it starts to trickle charge the truck.
Yeah, and this guy here is all set up for the lithium ion. You can pick the battery type. Looking good. But yeah, so one thing I really like about this compared to some van builds I've seen is that there's not as much accessible storage from when you're sitting inside, but you've got a lot of open space. You've got a nice big mattress, so it's very comfortable for sleeping. And I was laying in here at the beach. I had the tailgate open and I could move around easy. I could stretch out. It wasn't really cramped, and you know, you can't tell from the video maybe, but we're both over 6 feet tall, and so that's a nice feature to have when you get long sticks. But yeah, so it's a regular twin or full size. What's the?
It's a double bed. It's a full size double bed.
It's a full size double bed, so you can use regular sheets and blankets and fitted sheets. Just go around the side here. Oh, another little feature is these bungee cords. You can hang stuff from there, so you can get a hanging organizer, kind of like a shower bag or a bathroom caddy. And this one here on the front, you can hang a towel or a sheet too to get more privacy if you don't want to put on the front window covers. So I don't know, what do you think? Any other things you wanted to point out here? I guess, well, for the carpentry, I mean, I had a lot of people comment that they really appreciated the carpentry, the routering, the finishing. What were the main kind of tools you needed to assemble this guy, to build
Yeah,
it?
you basically need a full woodworking shop.
Yeah.
And one thing I had done at the supplier where I bought the material is have the big sheets cut down at some of the sizes that you need right off the bat. That way, because this stuff weighs a ton, like each sheet, so it's pretty scoopy.
Okay, well, that's about it. That's all, the bed all made up with the duvet and the pillows. Looks great. And you can see over there the folding shelf piece can be folded up if you want more leg room, or it can be folded down like that if you don't want it. So one thing I actually forgot to mention that I thought was really cool is that the DC-DC charger in this setup right now, with the solar panel running, once the renogy batteries are full, it will start to put power back into the starter battery of the truck to top it up like a trickle charger. And so if you're ever off-grid or camping and you accidentally leave the lights on in the van and you drain your battery, you don't need to call for a boost. You just plug in the solar and wait, and it'll eventually charge up.
Yeah, recharge your battery for it.
Yeah, so any parting words here for the van build? Any little tidbits of advice for anyone who wants to do this?
It takes a few months of your spare time, but yeah, it's well worthwhile. And plus, it's totally stealth. If you want to just park in a parking lot, nobody knows. It just looks like a van, right? So
Yeah.
stealth camping at its finest from Sydney, BC.
Awesome. Well, great job. It's beautiful.